Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson. Today we're going to listen to 10 cases with the most insane twists you've ever heard
911, where do you use the system? I need an ambulance for my mom and my sister. I'm losing my boyfriend. What happened? It's going on. Sorry. I just need somebody to get her quick, please. You do not hang up with me. Hold on. Okay. Hello? Who stabbed him? My sister did.
This call was made by Amanda on April 17th, 2009, at approximately 6:44 in the morning. She sounded incredibly frightened and desperately requested an ambulance. It was evident that something terribly serious had unfolded, but the details remained shrouded in confusion. The call isn't just disturbing, but it's also puzzling because it left them with more questions about the situation. To unravel the mystery of that fateful morning, let's delve straight into the case's details. Our story starts from the village of Hoffman Estates, nestled in the heart of Illinois, where there stood a charming house on Bluebonnet Lane. It was the cherished home of the Engelhart family. The family was a small but loving one, consisting of Shelley Engelhart, who from a very young age found her heart drawn to the gentle and kind-hearted Alan Engelhart. They set up their new life in the cozy 1000 block of Bluebonnet Lane in Hoffman Estates, where Alan worked tirelessly to provide a better and more comfortable life for his family. In this idyllic setting, another essential member of the family who resided with them was Alan's mother, Marlene Gracek. But the family grew even closer in 1981 when Shelley became a mother, giving birth to a beautiful baby girl with enchanting light brown eyes. They named her Amanda Engelhart. Amanda brought an abundance of love and joy to the Engelhart family. As the first daughter, she was the apple of everyone's eye. But no one could rival the affection showered upon her by her grandmother, Marlene, who took Amanda along on all of her adventures, whether it was a lively party or a simple shopping trip. The Engelhart family's joy continued to grow when, on January 10th, 1991, they welcomed a new member to their family, a baby girl, and they named her Laura Engelhart. As she reached her senior year at Conant High School in Hoffman Estates, Laura was a whirlwind of energy, enthusiastically participating in various activities and sports. Her heart held a special place for animals, and her dream was to become a veterinarian. With her cheerful and positive demeanor, she became a beloved figure in both the family and the community. The bond between Laura and her elder sister Amanda was unbreakable. They weren't just sisters, but best friends for each other. And the family's story continued to unfold, as in 1992 they celebrated the arrival of a baby boy, whom they lovingly named Jeff Engelhart. As the only son in the family, and usually got everything he wished for. With this trio of siblings, the family's bond tightened even further. However, in 2006, a turning point arrived in the Engelhart family when their 25-year-old daughter Amanda attended a friend's party and crossed paths with a 23-year-old young man named DeAndre Howard. It was one of those moments where destiny seemed to have a plan. Howard's demeanor and caring nature captured Amanda's heart, and she fell head over heels for him. In 2007, Amanda and Howard took the next step and got engaged. Their love continued to blossom, and soon they welcomed a new member, a baby girl, into the family in 2008, which actually completed the Engelhart family. But Howard, who was struggling with some mental health issues, wasn't able to provide much to his family, so the Engelhart family invited him to live with them under one roof. However, their joy was swiftly quenched on April 17th, 2009, when a 911 call made from their home unveiled a harrowing event that had transpired.
911, where do you use the system? I need an ambulance for somebody just come quick to what address? 135 North Bluebonnet. Okay, 135 North Bluebonnet in Hoffman Estates? A lot of blood loss. Okay, who's hurt? My mom and my sister. I'm losing my boyfriend. What happened? It's going on. Sorry, and I just need somebody to get here quick, please. Do not hang up with me. Hold on. Okay.
This call was made by Amanda on April 17th, 2009, at approximately 6:44 in the morning. She sounded incredibly frightened and desperately requested an ambulance. It was evident that something terribly serious had unfolded, but the details remained shrouded in confusion. The call isn't just disturbing, but it's also puzzling because it left them with more questions about the situation.
Okay, ma'am, I need you to calm down, okay? Tell me exactly what happened. Ma'am? I need you to tell me exactly what happened, okay? Hello, what's happening over there?
It already happened.
What's happening? Hello? What is your name, sir?
I'm woozy. I'm really woozy.
Where's the girl? Can you put her back on the line?
Laura tried to
Okay.
stab me.
Who tried to stab you?
She put the knife for me.
Okay.
She stabbed me in the arm.
Hold on a second, all right?
I fought for the knife. She put the knife for me.
Who stabbed you, sir? Sir, who stabbed you?
The voice you just heard was Howard's, and he sounded very weak and drained. If you listen carefully, you can also hear a lot of crying and screaming in the background. This suggests that Howard wasn't just hurt. There was something else distressing happening at that moment.
Hello?
Who stabbed him?
My sister did.
Where is your sister now?
When the police asked Amanda who'd stabbed Howard, she said it was her sister Laura. But what stood out was that she didn't sound very sure or confident when she gave this answer.
Where is she, ma'am? She's on the floor? How did she end up on the floor? Okay, ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath. Tell me exactly how she ended up on the floor. Okay, ma'am, what is your name?
My name is Amanda Englehart.
That's the girl's name I was just talking to?
Yes.
What's your name?
My name is DeAndre Howard.
DeAndre? Mr. Howard?
Amanda Englehart is my fiance. We're getting married this summer.
Okay, and...
Backyard.
Uh-huh.
I won't make it.
You will make it, sir. I just tell you, you've got help on the way, all right? Listen, Andre, was it her sister that stabbed you?
Yeah.
Where is she right now?
I gotta put a knife and I stabbed her. She's not stopping.
She's not, okay, so she stabbed you and she stabbed her?
Yes.
Okay.
Howard explained that he and Laura had a fight over the knife because she was trying to stab him. He managed to get the knife away from her and used it in self-defense, which is what he told the police. But what struck the police as strange was that in the midst of this intense situation with Laura injured and fighting for her life, Howard still found the presence of mind to mention his upcoming wedding. It seemed unusual that he'd bring up such an event at that moment.
Are you and her the only two that are hurt?
No, her dad.
Where's her dad?
He's dead.
He's dead? Okay, hold on a second, sir.
I'm dying.
Okay, Andre, you just stay with me on the phone, all right? What exactly happened? How did it start?
She put a knife and stabbed me in my arm.
Uh-huh.
My right bicep. She gotta.
Oh, yeah, Andre, you still with me? Andre? Hello, Andre? Andre, you there?
So it wasn't just Howard and Laura involved. Sadly, Laura's father, Alan, was also hurt, and he tragically lost his life. The big question that arises is, who was responsible for Alan's death? Was it really Laura, his own daughter, who caused this harm? At this moment, the police found themselves in a puzzling situation. They weren't sure if Laura had any intent to harm her family, or if there was a different story behind the distressing call.
Hello? Yes, hello, I think we're at the door.
Okay, go to the door. Stay on the phone with me. Go to the door, okay?
Okay.
Do not hang up with me. Go to the door.
Okay. I'm gonna go to the door. Wait, I have 1 minute. I know. Okay.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Yep.
Are you with the police right now? Okay. Where is this knife at right now? All right. What is your name? Okay, man, I don't know if you're doing real good, all right? What's going on, Andre? Yeah, what's happening with him right now? He just stopped talking to me. Is he only stabbed in the arm, or is he stabbed there elsewhere? Okay, what's going on with the father? Where is he in the house? Where is he in the house? He's in the den with Andre? And your sister? They're all in the den, okay.
Yeah. Room on the sofa.
Okay, are you hurt
Lay
at all?
down. Lay
Okay,
down.
you're not hurt, okay.
Okay. No.
It's vital to keep in mind that if Howard was indeed trying to protect his fiancée Amanda and her family, it could change the way we understand the events that unfolded. This detail becomes crucial as we move forward in the story. The police didn't waste any time and hurried to the Engelhart family's house in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, right after the 911 call. They knew it could be a challenging situation, but nothing could have prepared them for the shocking scene that awaited them. The whole house was a scene of unimaginable horror, with blood splattered everywhere. As they entered, they found Laura and Shelley's lifeless bodies on the floor, covered in blood, and Amanda and Howard were still in a state of shock. When Amanda saw the police, she couldn't hold back her tears and pleaded with them to help. However, the ambulance was still on its way.
Okay.
The police asked if anyone else in the family was hurt or deceased. In response, Amanda led them to the kitchen, where they found 2 more family members, her father Alan and grandmother Marlene, who had tragically lost their lives. Also, their lifeless bodies were in strange positions, as Marlene was found leaning against the kitchen cabinets in an unusual position, and Alan was on the floor with his left leg stuck between the lower cabinet. Both of them clearly had stab wounds on their chests, which were aimed right at their hearts. In the kitchen, there were also several knives. Some of them were in the sink, and one was covered in blood on the floor. But what really caught the police's attention were the marks on Amanda and Shelley's hands. These marks looked like they'd been tied up with a rope. This puzzled the investigators because it's not common for one person, like Laura, to tie up 2 others. Usually, when someone's in a self-defense situation, they fight back, and it was odd that Laura could have overpowered 2 women. So it actually raised questions about the events that unfolded some moments ago, that if Howard was indeed trying to protect everyone, why wasn't he there when Laura attacked them? Why didn't he hear their cries for help? As the ambulance arrived, the police acted swiftly, rushing Laura and Shelley to the hospital, since they were the only ones still alive, holding on to a chance for their lives. But it was really tragic that 18-year-old Laura didn't make it to the hospital and succumbed to her extensive stab wounds. Shelley, on the other hand, faced a tough battle by undergoing an intense surgery in an effort to... Some of them were in the sink, and one was covered in blood on the floor. But what really caught the police's attention were the marks on Amanda and Shelley's hands. These marks looked like they'd been tied up with a rope. This puzzled the investigators because it's not common for one person, like Laura, to tie up 2 others. Usually, when someone's in a self-defense situation, they'd fight back, and it was odd that Laura could have overpowered 2 women. So it actually raised questions about the events that unfolded some moments ago, that if Howard was indeed trying to protect everyone, why wasn't he there when Laura attacked them? Why didn't he hear their cries for help? As the ambulance arrived, the police acted swiftly, rushing Laura and Shelley to the hospital, since they were the only ones still alive, holding on to a chance for their lives. But it was really tragic that 18-year-old Laura didn't make it to the hospital and succumbed to her extensive stab wounds. Shelley, on the other hand, faced a tough battle by undergoing an intense surgery in an effort to save her life. Meanwhile, the investigation inside the house was in full swing, with the police carefully examining every corner. However, things took a significant turn when an investigator from the Illinois Medical Examiner's Office arrived. When this expert looked at Alan and Marlene's bodies, he made a startling discovery. Both had deep stab wounds on their chests, which typically require a lot of force to inflict. But here's where it gets intriguing. Laura, who is smaller in stature, would have found it exceptionally challenging to use that much force. What made it even more perplexing was that there weren't any other marks on their bodies, indicating that they might have been tied up or possibly initially subdued by being hit with an object before being stabbed. So, if Alan and Marlene were not tied up or unconscious when the attack happened, then in such a situation, it's normal for them to try to defend themselves, and it was impossible for Laura to stab them back in that situation. And that's where it's important to consider, because even the autopsy reports confirm that Alan and Marlene were attacked after Laura. This meant that there's a confrontation between Howard and Laura that happened before the attack on Alan and Marlene. So definitely, Laura got stabbed before the unfortunate events involving Alan and Marlene. Now, the police had a clear understanding that after Laura had been stabbed, it would have been practically impossible for her to carry out an attack. So the big question that was boggling the investigators' minds was, if Laura wasn't the one who harmed Alan and Marlene, then who was responsible? According to Howard's 911 call, he mentioned that Laura was stabbing everyone. This raised doubts about why Howard didn't try to protect the others if it wasn't Laura. It seemed there must have been someone else in the house with Howard and Amanda who'd witnessed the entire horrifying event. With all these questions swirling in their minds, the police decided to invite the only survivors at that moment, Howard and Amanda, to the police station for questioning. At this point, there was a growing suspicion that Howard and Amanda might be hiding something important, a critical truth behind the attack. And it was actually during the interview with Amanda when the shocking truth finally emerged and the police got to know what really happened in the Engelhart house that morning. She revealed that in the early morning, around 5:10 a.m., she and Howard returned back home from a late-night party. But things took a dramatic turn when Howard, out of nowhere, began yelling at Amanda. His anger flared up, and a highly intense and aggressive argument erupted between them. What triggered this heated argument was Howard's belief that Amanda was being unfaithful to him. This was a suspicion he'd harbored before, but on this particular morning, it reached a whole new level. To prevent their argument from escalating further, Amanda decided to go to her room for some rest. However, her peaceful sleep was abruptly shattered by the sound of someone wielding a knife. This was a chilling.
No barking! No barking!
But there was no
Lulu!
Amanda's
Lulu!
who'd been asleep in her room.
Eddie! Eddie!
Concerned, and with a growing sense of what would have happened. In an unexpected twist, Howard suddenly ordered both Amanda and Shelley to come into the family's den.
I'm
Fear filled the
clearing
air
an
as they
area
cautiously
so
made their
that
way
I can
towards the den.
record with
But to their
silence.
shock, Howard turned the tables on
And it
them.
will be in
He positioned them back to back and
probably
proceeded to tie them up,
January.
holding them as hostages. The situation resembled a scene from a horror movie, and it was about to get even worse. Their screams reached Laura, who rushed downstairs from her room. She was horrified to see her sister and mother tied up, but Howard, in a frantic attempt to control the situation, moved to tie up Laura as well. But Laura wasn't about to become a helpless victim.
No barking! No barking!
From Howard's grasp. In a bold but risky move, Laura used the knife to defend herself, ultimately stabbing Howard in his arm. Unfortunately, Laura's brave attempt only fueled Howard's anger. This man, who had long been grappling with mental health issues, remained in control of the knife. What followed next was a horrifying scene as Howard repeatedly stabbed both Laura and Shelley, and their agonizing screams echoed through the family home. The cries for help woke up Marlene, the 73-year-old grandmother and the eldest member of the Engelhart family. She rushed downstairs to check on Shelley and her granddaughters, but Howard was waiting for his next victim. He easily overpowered Marlene, and this defenseless woman didn't even get a chance to protect herself.
No
In a
barking!
cruel and swift attack, Howard stabbed her multiple times in the chest, particularly targeting her heart, and left her lifeless in the kitchen. Now, during this terrifying ordeal, Amanda remained tied up and was forced to watch helplessly as Howard took the lives of her family members. Their desperate cries and screams filled the air, creating a deeply distressing and unsettling atmosphere. It was these heart-wrenching sounds that finally woke the last member of the family, 57-year-old Alan Engelhart, the father of Amanda and Laura, from his sleep. When Alan descended the stairs, a chilling shiver ran down his spine. What he encountered was a nightmare beyond imagination. The sight of blood everywhere, with Laura and Shelley lying on the floor, covered in blood and fighting for their lives, was something no father or husband could ever fathom in their worst dreams. As Alan faced Howard, a violent and aggressive confrontation ensued, and Alan, driven by the fierce desire to protect his family, fought back with all his strength. But perhaps destiny wasn't on his side that morning. Howard ruthlessly attacked Alan, using the same violent method he had on Marlene, and left him in the kitchen, fighting for his life. Now, if you remember, Amanda said on the 911 call that all the attacks were done by Laura, but the truth was that she actually wanted to protect her husband, Howard. But now she had no other way left. With 2 horrific murders and a savage assault on Laura and Shelley, Howard paced between the den and kitchen, leaving a gruesome trail of blood in his wake. The Engelhart home had now been transformed into a nightmarish crime scene. Howard's next move was to rip the house phone from the wall, making sure that none of the surviving family members could call for help. It took almost an hour after this terrible incident for Howard to finally calm down. It was then that the enormity of what he'd done began to sink in. Overcome with guilt and terror, he broke down in tears, and surrounded by the gruesome aftermath of his actions, he couldn't believe that he'd taken the lives of the family members who had loved him deeply. In a moment of desperation, or perhaps seeing the situation in a different light, he lay beside the bloodied and injured Laura, seeking her forgiveness. He expressed his deep regret, saying he couldn't understand how he'd turned into a monster, and that he could never forgive himself for what he'd done. In a voice that trembled with pain, Laura, who was still holding on to life, forgave Howard. Now, after receiving Laura's forgiveness, Howard moved swiftly to untie Amanda, who'd been crying throughout the incident. He asked her to make the crucial 911 call to get the ambulance for the surviving family members who were in desperate need of help. They anxiously waited until the ambulance arrived at the scene, and Laura and Shelley were the first to be rushed to the hospital. In a miraculous turn of events, Shelley managed to survive her stab wounds and eventually made a full recovery. In just a matter of hours, Howard had taken the lives of 3 people and attempted to kill another, leaving the Engelhart family tree shattered and their lives changed forever. Now, there would be one question lingering in everyone's mind, that if Howard felt guilty for his actions, then why didn't he admit to the police on the 911 call, or when they arrived at the Engelhart house? It's because Amanda asked Howard to stay silent. She was trying all from her side to conceal the truth, but nothing really happened in Howard's favor. As the news of this tragic attack and the reports of murder spread through the community, people began to discuss how the Engelhart family had welcomed Howard as one of their own. Howard's early life had been anything but easy.
No,
He
you
was
stay
taken from
over
his own
there.
mother at the tender age of 6, when his 2 half-brothers
Okay,
were
come
born.
here. Come
By the
on.
time he was 9,
Yeah,
he was
see,
already
yeah,
showing
everybody's
signs
going to
of
get
troubling
all
aggression
riled
and
up.
anxiety.
Okay.
Howard's troubled journey continued, with incidents like a heated altercation at 15
Okay.
and an
You're going to
arrest
have
for
to back
assaulting a
up.
young girl in his neighborhood at 16,
This is
resulting in a
Appa.
juvenile offender conviction. Howard was given a second chance at life. His upbringing was far from conventional,
No,
and his previous
Appa. Okay,
behavior
now
wasn't
you have to
acceptable.
move.
Yet
No.
the Engelhart
Now you
family
have to
instilled
move.
their love and support
No.
and offered him a real chance to experience the warmth of a loving home.
Oh,
Howard also used to attend the church with the Engelhart family
okay.
and became an
This is
active
my
member of
day,
their
part of my
community,
day.
and even lived in their family home.
I'll get
Howard
up,
and
I'll
Amanda
get
also
out.
had a child together, but thankfully their little daughter wasn't there when the tragic murders occurred. Amanda's brother Jeff also wasn't home during that dreadful moment, as he'd spent the night at a friend's house. Howard was finally arrested on the very same day as the tragic attack on April 17, 2009, facing charges of first-degree murder and attempted murder. The Engelhart family, who appeared to be the embodiment of a loving and wholesome American family, left everyone in shock. What could have possibly driven Howard, who once loved them deeply, to carry out such a violent assault? Was it Amanda's loyalty that pushed him to commit these unforgivable crimes? While the instability in their relationship seemed rooted in Howard's deep-seated insecurities, the violence he unleashed on the Englehart family held a much darker tale. For years, many questions swirled in people's minds about this horrific incident, but the answers would only emerge after a long and agonizing wait of 5 years in 2014. Until then, Howard had been in police custody, and in June 2014, he finally faced trial in the Rolling Meadows courtroom. During the trial, Howard spent 3 hours testifying in his own defense, but the reason he gave for the horrifying attack was deeply disturbing. He claimed that it wasn't his own will that drove him to use the knife as a weapon against 5 innocent people.
Eddie,
instead, he said
come
it
back
was
down.
demons who had taken control of him. Howard explained that he'd heard voices in his head the entire time, commanding him to commit these terrible acts. He couldn't silence these loud, intrusive thoughts that had twisted his thinking and perception during the murders. Even when he tied up his fiancée, Amanda Englehart, and her mother, Shelley Englehart, he told them he was going to torture and kill their family right before their eyes. Howard's lawyer, public defender Deanna Vinstock, pleaded for leniency, citing Howard's long history of mental illness as a factor to be considered. She sought a verdict of not guilty by reason of insanity. However, their request was met with a denial from the judge, as Assistant State's Attorney Maria McCarthy argued for the maximum sentence, stating that Howard was fully aware of the seriousness of his actions. The fact that he tied up the family members before the killings indicated that his chilling actions were premeditated. In the end, Howard was found guilty, but surprisingly, he managed to avoid the death penalty. Instead, he received a severe sentence of 3 life terms in prison, plus an additional 60 years. This meant that Howard would spend the rest of his life behind bars. As Cook County Judge Ellen Mandeltor delivered the sentence, Howard remained stoic and showed no emotion. It was a moment that marked the beginning of Howard's lifetime behind bars, closing a chapter of pain and suffering for all involved. Howard's mother, Constance Taylor, handed a written note after the hearing. In it, she expressed her deep remorse, saying, "I would like to apologize to the Englehart family for the pain that my son has caused. The family will remain in my prayers. We all have suffered through this trying time." For the surviving members of the Englehart family, the closure was bittersweet. They had seen the killer of their loved ones brought to justice, a man they had once welcomed into their family with open hearts. Shelley Englehart expressed their resilience, saying, "I stand here now to let you know that good has triumphed over evil once more. The wounds and pain you've inflicted on us have not weakened our family and will not define our future." Laura's brother, Jeff Englehart, who had become a reporter for the Northwest Herald in Crystal Lake, held hope that Howard might change for the better during his time in prison. He shared, "I don't want to hate you. I want you to try hard every day to think about the people you killed and who they were." Finally, Shelley and her daughter Amanda made the courageous choice to return to their Hoffman Estates home. The gruesome nature of these murders is undeniably chilling, and it serves as a sobering reminder to reflect on how well we truly know the people we welcome into our lives. The Englehart family's decision to embrace a man with a troubled past was an act of kindness, but tragically, it came at a high cost. It's a poignant lesson that reminds us of the complexities of human nature and the unforeseen consequences of our choices.
A lot of emotions, just unbelievable relief. It's been a long time, and really have to thank the state's attorneys for the job they did. It was incredible, but just a lot of relief. I guess in that sense, the time sort of helped. It wasn't anything I don't think we didn't expect them to try. Obviously, we think the jury absolutely got it right, and thankful for that as well. But we had been prepared that that's what they would probably attempt.
What are your thoughts on this case? Was it truly Howard's doing, or could there be a sinister truth where demonic entities compel them to commit these heinous acts? Is Amanda equally responsible in the murders as Howard by trying to conceal the truth? We'd love to hear from you. If there's a case you'd like us to cover, don't hesitate to drop your recommendations in the comment section below. In April 1990, a 20-year-old woman named Sharon Marshall was discovered dead on the side of a highway in Oklahoma City, the capital of the U.S. state of Oklahoma, known for its cowboy culture and oil fields. The woman who was found had visible bruises and a brain injury. She was quickly taken to a hospital, but unfortunately passed away there. Since her groceries were found scattered near her, the police concluded that she'd likely been hit by a vehicle while walking from a convenience store to the motel where she was staying. However, further examination revealed that the injury to the back of Sharon's head did not match the typical injuries from a car accident. As they looked more closely into the case, they discovered that Sharon was just 20 years old at the time of her tragic death. She had a 2-year-old son named Michael. On the fateful day when she was presumably struck by a hit-and-run driver, Sharon had gone out to purchase baby supplies. She was also married to a man named Franklin Delano Floyd, who was over 25 years older than her. The day after Sharon was found injured, Floyd arrived at the hospital and said he had fallen asleep at the motel while Sharon went to get groceries. The police started to suspect him, but they couldn't link him to the crime. To uncover more about Sharon and Floyd's story and unravel the truth, law enforcement initiated a thorough investigation into their relationship and the events leading up to that fateful day. Sharon, originally born as Suzanne Marie Savakis, came into the world on September 9, 1969. Her mother, Sandy Chipman, had 3 children from other marriages. So, apart from Sharon, who was the oldest, there were 2 daughters named Allison and Amy, and a son named Philip. In 1974, Floyd, who was then using the alias Brandon Williams, crossed paths with Sandy at a North Carolina truck stop. Before meeting Sandy, Floyd had a criminal history that included offenses such as kidnapping, armed robbery, assault, and various other crimes. After Floyd and Sandy met, they dated for a month and then got married. Following their marriage, Floyd persuaded Sandy to move with her 4 children to Dallas, Texas. A year later, in 1975, Sandy faced a 30-day jail sentence for writing bad checks. Upon her release, she returned home only to discover that the house was empty. Floyd had taken her children and disappeared. Sandy managed to locate her 2 middle daughters, Allison and Amy, who were in the care of a social services group run by a local church. Unfortunately, she never found her eldest child, Sharon, or her youngest child, Philip. When Sandy tried to report this as a kidnapping, local authorities informed her that, as their stepfather, Floyd had legal rights to take the children. Later that year, Floyd and Sharon resurfaced in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. At that time, Sharon was enrolled in school using the name Suzanne Davis. Floyd provided various conflicting explanations about how he'd come to have custody of her. In one version, he claimed to have rescued Sharon when her biological parents abandoned her. Unfortunately, as time went on, it would become evident that Floyd subjected Sharon to years of abuse, the full extent of which you'll soon learn. Sharon completed her high school education in Forest Park, Georgia in 1986. By this time, Floyd was using the name Warren Marshall. Sharon was known as an exceptionally bright student and even earned a scholarship to the Georgia Institute of Technology, where she had plans to study aerospace engineering. Sadly, she became pregnant by an unknown man, and Floyd prevented her from pursuing her college education. Eventually, she gave birth to a child who was later put up for adoption. Following this, Sharon and Floyd moved to Tampa, Florida. There, Sharon began working as an exotic dancer. In 1988, she gave birth to a son named Anthony Michael Hughes. In 1989, she and Floyd tied the knot in New Orleans using the name Tanya Tadlock and Clarence Hughes. After they got married, Floyd and Sharon settled in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sharon continued working as a dancer at a club. During this time, a fellow dancer named Karen Parsley urged Sharon to break free from Floyd's controlling grip. However, Sharon expressed fear that he'd harm her and her son if she attempted to leave. Floyd had even falsely claimed membership in the Fraternal Order of Police, despite not being an actual police officer, and had convinced Sharon that he had connections that could track her down. Despite these threats, by April 1990, Sharon had decided to run away with Kevin Brown, a college student with whom she was secretly involved in a relationship. She intended to take her son Michael with her. Unfortunately, not long after making this decision, Sharon met her tragic end. After Sharon's death, Floyd placed his son, Michael, in foster care and left the state. Michael's foster parents reported to the authorities that when he initially came to their home, he had limited muscle control, couldn't speak, and frequently exhibited hysterical behavior.
No barking.
However, with time, he made remarkable progress. In 1994, his foster parents initiated adoption proceedings to provide him with a permanent home. During the adoption process, they conducted a DNA test to confirm Michael's paternity. Surprisingly, it was revealed that Floyd was not Michael's biological father. Despite this revelation, Floyd tried to regain custody of Michael. However, due to his criminal history and the fact that he had no biological relation to the boy, his request was denied. Then, on September 12, 1994, Floyd took a shocking and drastic step. On that day, Michael was attending first grade at Indian Meridian Elementary School in Choctaw, Oklahoma. Floyd entered the school brandishing a gun and forced Principal James Davis to take him to Michael's classroom. Afterward, Floyd forced both Michael and Davis into his pickup truck. Subsequently, he left the principal, Davis, handcuffed to a tree in a wooded area and drove away with Michael. In November 1994, approximately 2 months later, Floyd was arrested in Louisville, Kentucky for kidnapping young Michael as well as his principal. At the time of his arrest, Michael was not with him. Floyd informed the authorities that Michael was alive and safe, but deliberately withheld the precise whereabouts of the boy or who was taking care of him. The situation grew even more perplexing as conflicting reports emerged. Some witnesses provided accounts of alleged confessions made by Floyd regarding Michael's death. These reports suggested that Floyd had told certain individuals that he drowned the child in a motel bathtub in Georgia shortly after the kidnapping. Another person claimed to have seen Floyd burying Michael's body in a cemetery. Now, back in 1989, Floyd and Sharon were under suspicion regarding the disappearance of a woman named Cheryl Ann Camesso. Cheryl happened to be a co-worker and a friend of Sharon, and they both worked as dancers at the same club. What drew investigators' attention to Floyd and Sharon in this case was an incident at the club involving Cheryl. It all began when co-workers at the club witnessed a heated argument between Floyd and Cheryl. Floyd had accused Cheryl of reporting Sharon for misrepresenting her income, a move that led to Sharon losing her government benefits. This altercation took place outside the club where Sharon and Cheryl worked as exotic dancers, and a co-worker even reported that Floyd had punched Cheryl in the face. Cheryl was last seen alive during the first week of April 1989. She left her home with a packed bag and informed her family that she'd return the following week. However, her car was discovered at the St. Petersburg Clearwater Airport in Pinellas County, Florida. It had been parked there since April 7, 1989. Adding to the mystery, shortly after Cheryl's disappearance, Floyd and Sharon fled to Oklahoma, and their trailer home was deliberately set on fire and destroyed. The disappearance of Cheryl in 1989 remained a mystery until 1995, when a landscaper discovered her skeletal remains near Interstate 275 in Pinellas County, Florida. Initially, her identity was unknown, and she was listed as a Jane Doe. It took another year to identify her remains through dental records. An archaeologist examination revealed that she died as a result of a severe beating and 2 gunshot wounds to the head. In March 1995, a mechanic in Kansas made a startling discovery. He found a large envelope hidden between the truck bed and the top of the gas tank of a truck he'd recently bought at an auction. Inside the envelope were 97 photographs, many of which depicted a severely beaten and bound woman. The police tracked down the truck to Floyd, who'd stolen it in Oklahoma in September 1994, but had left it in Texas a month later. Investigators compared the photographs of the injured woman with Cheryl, as well as evidence found with Cheryl's remains. They noticed that the clothing in the photographs resembled Cheryl's, and a medical examiner compared the injuries seen in the pictures to the injuries on Cheryl's skull, finding them consistent. Moreover, several pictures featured furniture and belongings that were identified as belonging to Floyd. Based on this compelling photographic evidence found in the truck, Floyd was charged with Cheryl's murder in 1997. In the same truck, authorities discovered additional disturbing photographs. These photos depicted the long-term abuse of Sharon, beginning when she was just a young child. Among the images were explicit poses of Sharon at different ages, some as early as 4 years old, and others from her teenage years. In 2001, as Floyd awaited trial for Cheryl's murder, Judge Nancy Lay initially deemed him unfit to stand trial and requested that he undergo a more thorough mental evaluation. Floyd contested this evaluation, insisting that he was mentally capable. Several months later, the judge reversed her previous decision and ordered him to stand trial. In 2002, Floyd was eventually convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. Then, in September 2014, while he was on death row, Floyd confessed to the murder of Michael. He admitted to killing Michael on the same day of the kidnapping by shooting him twice in the back of the head. He further disclosed that he disposed of Michael's body on Interstate 35. Despite an ensuing search of the area, no results were obtained, and authorities suspected that wild hogs may have consumed Michael's remains. In 2019, a man stepped forward, believing he was Philip, one of the children Floyd had kidnapped from his then-wife Sandy back in 1975. DNA tests were conducted, confirming that he was indeed Philip. It turned out that Philip had been placed for adoption in North Carolina and was adopted by a couple named Mary and Bob Patterson. They changed his name to Stephen. On January 23, 2023, at the age of 79, Floyd passed away from natural causes while he was still on death row. Our next case leads us to Phoenix, Arizona, the capital and largest city in the state, with over 1.6 million residents. In 2006, a tragic event unfolded within its borders. But before we get there, let's begin in Knoxville, Tennessee, where Ryan Thomas Waller was born on February 12, 1988. When he was younger, he enjoyed playing the guitar. His father, Donald Thomas Waller, mentioned that Ryan had a talent for quickly picking up songs and rapping along with them. In 2006, after graduating from high school, 18-year-old Ryan was dating Heather Kwan. Heather was a 21-year-old college student at the time, and they made the decision to live together. To make this happen, they rented a house in Phoenix, Arizona, along with a third roommate named Alicia. It was December 25, 2006, and Ryan and his girlfriend Heather were enjoying a quiet evening together at home. Suddenly, there was a knock on their door, and since they weren't expecting their roommate Alicia, they were surprised by the unexpected interruption. Curious, Ryan decided to check who was at the door. However, when he opened it, he was confronted by two armed intruders who immediately held him at gunpoint. Ryan tried to close the door quickly, but he wasn't fast enough. The intruders then proceeded to shoot him twice in the head. Afterwards, the intruders entered the apartment and also fatally shot Heather. They proceeded to search the house, taking electronic devices and a guitar. Ryan's absence from the family Christmas dinner and his unresponsiveness to their calls worried his parents. They grew increasingly concerned and decided to call the police, requesting a wellness check on their son. The police arrived at midnight and, through a window, spotted a lifeless body. However, they chose not to enter and waited for hours to get a search warrant. During this wait, Alicia, the roommate, returned home. She went straight to her room without noticing anything unusual in the living room. It wasn't until the police came back and knocked on the door that she finally answered. During their search of the premises, the police made a shocking discovery. They found Heather's lifeless body, but incredibly, Ryan was still alive despite being shot in the head. Strangely, the police made the surprising decision to arrest Ryan, suspecting him of murder. They believed his facial gunshot wound was just a black eye, and they speculated that he and Heather had a violent argument that led to her death. The police treated the case as a domestic abuse incident gone terribly wrong. Ryan's behavior at the time added complexity to the situation. He appeared reluctant to cooperate with the police, claiming not to remember what had transpired and insisting on being allowed to sleep. These actions led to his detention and lengthy questioning by the police about the events of that fateful night. The situation took a troubling turn as the police did not initially believe Ryan, which resulted in a delay in getting him medical help.
No, it was a real gun, man. It was just a revolver.
They shot you in the eye with a revolver. You wouldn't be talking to me right now.
How do you know?
It's most likely you'd be dead.
That's what I thought too, man. I really don't know.
I'm not going to believe this one. I can't believe it either. You're right. I've already heard the story. I can't believe it.
After being taken into custody, Ryan endured several hours inside patrol cars. The following morning, around 5 a.m., Ryan, still injured and in pain, was brought to the police station for questioning.
I just want to go to sleep, that's it. If you have a concussion, you don't need to sleep. That's what the doctors are saying. So, I'll put your feet on the table like that. Let's go straight on the table.
Detective Paul Dalton led the interrogation. He started out by asking Ryan some basic questions. However, given Ryan's current state, Ryan wasn't able to process any answers to what he was being asked.
What's the highest grade you went through school? I don't know. You don't know the highest grade you went through? Eighth grade? Did you graduate? Yeah. Do you have a GED? I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know. I just want to go home. You're not going to go home right now.
Still suspecting that Ryan killed Heather, Detective Dalton proceeded to acquire more information about Heather, thinking that he might get a confession out of Ryan.
You know a girl named Heather? Mm-hmm. You know Heather's last name? Mm-hmm. What is Heather's last name? The one that lives there right now? I guess, I don't know. If her name's Heather, what's her last name? I don't know which name she's trying to use as her last one. How old is Heather? 16 or 17. She a white girl? Yeah. How did you meet Heather? From nowhere. Since school. You just know her from school? She used to be a business name. I don't know. She used to do a business name? She used to be in my book named Business Name. Oh, okay. She used to be in the class, your business class? Mm-hmm.
The bullet injury on Ryan's hand had left him completely clueless. He couldn't recall anything that had happened to him and Heather that night.
What happened to your face? I don't know. You told the officer just a few minutes ago that someone hit you. Do you remember who hit you? I don't know. I think it was Heather. Why would Heather hit you? I don't know. I forgot why. What was an accident? Heather's last name? No. What was an accident? Heather hitting me. What did she hit you with? Her hand in the eye. Did you guys have an argument? Not really, no. Not really? What happened for her to hit you in the eye like that? She just hit me on accident.
All of Ryan's answers made Detective Dalton more suspicious. He believed that building a little more pressure would eventually break Ryan.
Well, you remember Heather hitting you in the eye, right? I don't remember after that because I can lay down if I go to sleep. Alright? I don't know what anybody is doing. I really don't. I don't know, man. I really don't. I really don't, man. You don't want to tell me. I really don't know, man. I really don't. I just want to go and go to sleep, man. You're not going to go anywhere. Do you know what happened in your house last night? Mm-hmm. Is that house yours? No. Yours or your parents'? No. You bought that house? Mm-hmm. Okay. Why, what happened? I don't know what happened. You're all beat up, right? So tell me what happened. Oh no, I just want to go to sleep, man. That's it. Remember what happened to your nose? There's a big chunk out of your nose.
Leave
I
him.
don't know. Something grabbed
Get
you?
up there.
When you fighting with somebody?
Up there.
No, I need to go. I need to go back to sleep, man. I'm just tired, man. That's it.
I left my coffee.
Didn't even do anything. I just want to go to sleep. You remember what time this happened? Right? Like 1? Or maybe earlier? I don't know. Do you know Eric's girlfriend? Yeah. What's her name? Heather? Eric's girlfriend's Heather? Okay. Alicia. The girl that lives in your house. You know who she is? Okay. Yeah, it was Heather. You remember what time she came home last night? Not really. Why? I'm just asking. I don't. I really
Stop,
don't.
Eddie. You're being a bully.
She came home last night. Your eye was already like that.
Come on. He's allowed to come
Do you
here.
remember in the house? I think so. Was your eye already screwed up like that?
Get your pet pet. Okay.
Like 2 in the morning, I was already sleeping on.
Now you can lay down. You can get on the sofa over there,
So she got back at 2 in the morning?
or you can lay on the floor, or there's another bed over there by the patio.
By now, it was quite clear that the questioning was going nowhere. Finally, Detective Dalton decided to confront Ryan with the tragedy that had happened the night before.
I just want to go to sleep, man. That's it. Right? Huh?
Stop it. Eddie. Stop. Stop. Lay down somewhere. Okay, both of y'all. Come on.
House last night. The girl on the couch is dead? I don't know. If she's on the couch, she's dead. Well, these people came over. She is dead. With shooting arrows going dark.
Go lay down, honey.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Go lay down.
That's it. And Heather wasn't there. And Eric wasn't there. So it was just me and Heather. What was that? You and Heather were there. And then what happened? And that's it. Richie and his dad tried to break in the back. Richie and Dad? His dad? Who's Richie? I don't know. Well, you obviously know him. You know his name by Richie. He used to live there. Was he a roommate of yours? He used to be. And they hit you and they hit you? Yeah. Now it's Richie that hit you, not Heather? No, Richie and his dad. Richie and his dad. They hit you? Yes. Why? Because they're trying to get their stuff. I don't know why. And they had some kind of bow and arrows? They each had 2 revolvers and they didn't lock any shells. Okay, you just said they had bow and arrows. Now they have revolvers? That's what I meant. They have revolvers. They have revolvers? Yes. And then what happened? And then they shot at those. They shot both of you? Yeah. Where'd they shoot you at? They got shot in the eye. You got shot in the eye? I think so. With a revolver? I think. I don't know, man. I don't know. Fuck. Then what happened? I don't know. You don't know a lot, Ryan. I don't, man. I really don't. Did you shoot Heather? I heard you have a lot of guns in your house. No? Well, you know we're going to look. Ryan, why don't you tell me what really happened there? Because I don't believe. I really don't know, man. I really don't. I don't know. I just tell you anything, I swear. I want you to tell me the truth. That's all I want. Richie and his dad came there. And I don't know why. I don't know why, but they put me in sleeping holes. And like, they put me in sleeping holes with the arrows and shit. Like, I lived through that crap. Okay, they put you in a sleeping hold? Yeah. What is that? I don't know. I really don't. I don't know, man. You're telling me they put you in a sleeping hold. What is a sleeping hold? I don't know. Well, explain it. And tell me out of your mouth. Explain that to me. What's a sleeping hold? I really don't know, man. I really don't know.
But was finally able to recall a few events from last night, revealing some information about the intruders.
You're all over the board here, number one. You're saying bows and arrows, you're saying revolvers, and you're saying some other thing, and you're saying they shot you in the eye. Okay? They shot you with a revolver in your eye. Yes. And is it a BB gun? No, it was a real gun, man. It was just a revolver. They shot you in the eye with a revolver. You wouldn't be talking to me right now. How do you know? It was most likely you'd be dead. That's what I thought too, man. I really don't know. Okay? I really don't know, and I just want to go back to sleep and try to go back to bed. You're not going back to bed. Okay? That's not going to happen. Alright, but what happened, man? What do I got to do? Just tell me what I got to do. Get your feet off my chair, number one. Number two, what happened to Heather? I don't know, man. I really don't know. You're now saying Richie and his dad shot Heather. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Yes. And they shot her with a revolver? Yes. And did not use any gun? They came with those guns? Mm-mm. And they came through the where? They were breaking in? Back. Through the back? By your door, or is there another door? Through the back door. Through the back door? Is that off the kitchen? Mm-hmm. And why would they come on Christmas Day? I don't know. I really don't know. Really don't know. Did they break in, or did you let them in? I let them in. And then what happened? And they started shooting up the house. With a gun? Mm-hmm. Okay, and then what happened? That's it. What happened to Heather? Heather got shot. Where did she get shot? Inside the face once. She got shot inside of the face? Mm-hmm. How close were you to her when she got shot in the face? It was after I got shot, so I didn't even hear anything. So you got shot first? Mm-hmm. And what happened? Did you fall to the ground? Yeah, I was trying to get up and shit, and I couldn't. I don't know. And then she got shot? Mm-hmm. What did you do? Nothing. Did you call 911? Uh-uh. Did you see if she was alive? She was sleeping still, and that's it. I just let her sleep. She got shot in the side of the face, and you let her sleep? Yes. This does not make sense, Ryan. I know, I didn't mean to, man. I'm sorry. I didn't know she was passing out. That's because I got shot wrong once, too, and I was going to pass out. Okay, this is now, not before. I don't know. You're saying right now you've been shot? Yes. In the eye? Yes. With the revolver? Yes. All right.
Eventually, Detective Dalton was convinced that Ryan had really been shot. He called in his team and provided Ryan with much-needed medical aid.
Hey guys. Captain, you're not going to believe this one. I can't believe it either. You're right. I've already heard the story. I can't believe it. This is just my observations that this might be an entrance, this might be an exit, this might be into his eye. And he's acting like he has a serious head injury, which would make sense. So, what's your guys confirm?
Right.
Yeah, we'll take him.
I don't know.
You're down on, has it been like that before, or just happened tonight?
Like this for like a day or so.
What happened what, the other night?
I don't know.
You don't know what happened. Were there guns around?
This kid Eric did it. I don't know how he did it exactly. I might have been shot. I don't know. I really don't know.
While you wait for him to give It looks like it went right through it, huh?
Yeah, not having no.
She's doing blood pressure on that. Sorry.
I got these guys ready to
Just relax you.
Where are you from, man? Do you live in town or?
I was born in Michigan. From
I got his name and everything. Yeah, I got it. What's down there? Do you have the in-laws in town for Christmas?
huh?
Do you have the in-laws in town or anything?
See it's done.
124 over 70. 82 strong and regular. Well, look, Ryan's here. Let's check out. Yeah, he's over here.
Ryan's medical care was significantly delayed, causing his condition to worsen. Due to this delay, he developed a brain infection that prevented immediate surgery to remove the bullet lodged in his head. The bullet had entered Ryan's face from the left side and traveled into his left temporal lobe. This resulted in fragments of his eye socket and bone becoming lodged in his brain, leading to brain swelling. Additionally, a splinter of the bullet remained behind his left eye. During his arrest, he was tackled to the ground, resulting in a broken jaw. Ryan endured permanent damage due to these injuries, including the loss of his left eye, severe seizures, and memory loss. Eventually, on December 28, 2006, he underwent surgery. His hospitalization lasted for 35 days. The Waller family took legal action against the Phoenix Police Department and the City of Phoenix, aiming to secure $15 million in damages for how they handled Ryan's case. Interestingly, this lawsuit was later dropped when the City of Phoenix filed a motion for dismissal with the court. The city's arguments rested on the opinion of a brain expert who assessed Ryan's injuries and argued that the delayed treatment wouldn't have changed the extent of his injuries. The judge sided with the city's perspective, stating that Ryan's injuries would have been the same if there hadn't been a delay, and therefore dismissed the lawsuit. The Waller family, however, believes that corruption among city attorneys, police officers, and detectives influenced the case's dismissal, as they were concerned the jury would favor the family. Allegations have surfaced that suggest the Phoenix Police Department altered information to conceal their negligence in Ryan's case. They were accused of changing the date of the incident from December 25th to December 23rd in an attempt to avoid responsibility. Detective Dalton also faced allegations of tampering with evidence, although he didn't face any repercussions within the police force. It's been claimed that the police report contained inaccurate information about the shooting date, supposedly to divert attention away from their delayed medical response. After numerous rounds of questioning and further investigations, the police ultimately discovered that a man named Richie Lee Carver and his father, Larry Lloyd Carver, were the true culprits behind the crime. Richie had been a former roommate of Ryan, and they had a prior dispute. The Carvers were seeking revenge when they returned to the apartment on the evening of the incident. Once the police realized Ryan was innocent, they managed to capture the real culprits. Richie was the first to be arrested. Larry, on the other hand, had immediately fled to California after the crime, taking the murder weapon, a .22 caliber gun, with him. Eventually, law enforcement apprehended him. During this time, Larry's wife, Cheryl, spoke with detectives and confirmed that Larry and Richie had left on December 25, 2006, supposedly to retrieve Richie's belongings from his old home. She revealed that upon Larry's return, he confessed to the murders, admitting to killing 2 people. However, just before the Carvers murder trial was scheduled to start, Cheryl retracted her statement, claiming that she couldn't remember Larry's confession. She stated that she lied to the detectives out of anger toward Larry during their turbulent relationship. As a result of this, the case against Larry was dismissed, since Cheryl's confession was the sole evidence against him. This led to his release. Richie was identified as the person who fatally shot Heather. In 2008, he was convicted of multiple charges, which included felony murder, burglary, aggravated assault, and misconduct involving weapons. As a result, Richie received a life sentence in prison with no chance of parole. Heather's family pushed for changes in spousal privilege laws after Larry was released due to Cheryl's refusal to testify against him. In 2009, Arizona legislators passed Heather's Law, which removed spousal privilege when a spouse voluntarily shares information with the police about their partner's involvement in crimes. Following a lengthy legal battle, Larry's case was reopened and he faced charges of first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, burglary, and aggravated assault. In January 2013, Larry was found guilty on all counts and received a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole on January 25, 2013. Ryan, on the other hand, returned to live with his parents, who took care of him. Tragically, on January 20, 2016, he experienced a fatal seizure, fell and hit his head in a grocery store, ultimately bleeding out and passing away. The complex and tragic events in this case serve as a stark reminder of the unexpected turns that life can take. It's a story filled with injustice, resilience, and ultimately, the fragility of human existence. Our next case takes us to Markham, a city in Ontario, Canada, with over 300,000 residents. Just about 30 kilometers northeast of Toronto, Markham is the 16th largest city in Canada. The city has over 1,000 life sciences and technology companies, and several multinational companies have their Canadian headquarters in Markham. Due to this, over the years, many immigrants from overseas have flocked to the city looking for employment and better lives. Markham is also known for its significant Asian population. A shocking crime took place here in 2010. At 10:05 p.m. on November 8, 2010, 3 men entered a home in Unionville, Markham. The house was occupied by a married couple, Bit Ha Pan and Hui Han Pan, along with their 24-year-old daughter, Jennifer Pan. When they entered the house, one of the men pointed a gun at Bit, while another rushed upstairs and confronted her husband, Han, forcing him out of bed, down the stairs, and into the living room. Meanwhile, a third man confronted Jennifer outside her bedroom and used a shoelace to tie her arms behind her. He then guided her to various locations in the house. First, Jennifer gave the intruder approximately $2,500 in cash. Then they proceeded to their parents' bedroom, where the intruder found $1,100 in U.S. funds on her mother's nightstand. Finally, he led Jennifer to the kitchen to search for her mother's wallet. After robbing the family, the men took Jennifer's parents to the basement and covered their heads with blankets. Bit was shot 3 times in the head, while her husband was shot in the face and shoulder. Following this, the men fled through the front door. In the moments that followed, Jennifer managed to reach her phone tucked into her pants waistband and called 911 for help.
What's your name?
My name is Jennifer.
So it just broke in?
Don't broke in. I heard shots like pops. I don't know what's happening. I'm tied upstairs.
Did it sound like gunshots?
I don't know what gunshot sounds like. I just heard a pop.
At the same time, her father emerged from the basement. He'd miraculously survived. He'd woken up covered in blood in his dead wife's body next to him, and had crawled up the stairs to the main floor. His voice can be heard in the 911 call.
On the 911 call, you hear someone else screaming.
Yes, that's Han Pan.
My dad just went outside screaming.
Do you think your mom is downstairs too?
Don't hear her anymore.
He eventually stumbled outside, screaming in distress. He came upon a surprised neighbor in the driveway next door, and this neighbor immediately dialed 911. In a matter of just minutes, the police and an ambulance arrived at the scene. Han was quickly transported to a nearby hospital and later airlifted to Sunnybrook Hospital for urgent medical care. The evening after the invasion, Jennifer was interviewed by the York Regional Police. She explained that the men entered the house looking for money, tied her to the banister, and then took her parents to the basement where they were shot. 2 days later, the police requested a second statement from her. During this session, they requested that she show them how she managed to reach her flip phone, which she had concealed in her waistband while being tied to the banister, and later used to call for help.
I want to see how you could physically get your phone out of your waistband. We're obviously going to need to know that. It's very important. We know you made the phone call, but questions are going to obviously raise is that if my hands are bound and I'm against the railing, how do I talk to a 911 operator?
At first, Jennifer appears hesitant.
Put this in the side that you believe it was in. Great. Turn around so that you're looking away from me. You're looking exactly like, now here is where the banister is. Put your hands back behind your back, exactly how you remember they were. Okay. Now, and are you restrained from movement? How far can you move your hands from the banister?
They tied my upper arm.
Yes.
Around the banister.
Yes.
But my hands were bound together.
Doubts started to arise regarding Jennifer's account of the events. Some inconsistencies appeared, such as the keys to her father's car being easily visible by the front door. If it was a genuine home invasion, why didn't the intruders take the car? Additionally, why didn't they have tools like a crowbar to break in, a backpack to carry stolen items, or zip ties to restrain the people inside?
Glaring thing about her story.
Not much was stolen. There was a Mercedes and a Lexus in the garage. They weren't stolen. There were TVs, there were devices, there was money that was found in the house, which wasn't stolen. Thieves that get away into the night without cash that was left on the counter aren't very good thieves.
The most perplexing question was why the intruders shot 2 witnesses, but left one unharmed.
The criminals who did this would have to be pretty bumbling to shoot 2 people in the head and then leave 1 witness surviving, tied up upstairs.
As a result of these uncertainties, the police decided to assign a surveillance team to monitor Jennifer's movements closely. By November 12, 2010, Hahn had awoken from a 3-day coma induced by the doctors. His injuries included a broken bone near his eye, bullet fragments in his face that couldn't be removed, and a shattered neck bone because the bullet had grazed his carotid artery. Surprisingly, he remembered all the details, including 2 concerning ones. He remembered seeing his daughter Jennifer having a soft and friendly conversation with one of the intruders, and noticed that her arms were not tied behind her back as she was being led around the house. On November 22, 2010, the police conducted a 3rd interview with Jennifer, but this one had a different tone. Detective William Getz informed her that he believed she was involved in the crime and had lied to him. He urged her to come clean for her own benefit. In response, Jennifer, visibly upset and hunched over, kept asking, "But what happens to me?"
All you have to do is tell me that you were involved, right? You know it. We know it. It's plain as day. I'm 100% correct here.
During this interview, Jennifer eventually confessed that she had hired the killers.
No barking.
She claimed that Jennifer had to kill her.
Papa, Lulu.
She failed multiple times when she tried to commit. So she decided this would be the way that she could meet her fate.
The police immediately arrested Jennifer.
They do it, but
As they investigated
I'm trying
further,
to
they
wait till
uncovered a shocking motive
January
behind the crime.
so I can
It
get
was deeply rooted
another
in Jennifer's
television
relationship with
upstairs,
her
then
parents,
I can
and had a
record
history that stretched back in
because
time.
they bark every now and then.
Jennifer's
Remember
parents,
when I had
Betty
one?
and Hui Han,
Oh, you close the type of way now? Why are you going there, Kate?
So,
What you do?
but I I do apologize when I say I have, dogs.
1979 as a political refugee.
You know you could just stuff them
But
up
also
there
came
and
to
throw them in
Canada
the
as a refugee.
I never thought of
The
that.
couple got married in Toronto.
Because
and
it's their
initially lived in
playtime.
Come on, throw them in the garage. They're dogs. They're going to have a field day if you tie them up in there. You don't want to put Papa out there?
Sure
You're
they
having a
would.
great time out there. The only reason why you guys are really, oh, you got to bring them in, you got to bring them in is because he started barking. Because the other dog started barking. This
On
thing
auto
was
parts
fun.
manufacturing.
Oh, okay.
You throw them in the garage for an hour or two when you're recording. They're not going to be upset about it.
Involved in making car parts.
Oh, but Jackie had a question for you here. Let's put on the speakers.
They
Okay.
achieved financial stability. allowing them to
Oh,
purchase a spacious house with a
it's
two-car
recording now.
garage on a residential street in Markham.
Give me a second. I can come over
Jennifer's
there.
parents had high expectations for her and her brother Felix. They'd worked hard to establish their lives in Canada and expected their children to build upon their foundation. They started Jennifer early by enrolling her in piano lessons at the age of 4, where she displayed great talent. By the time she was in elementary school, she'd already earned a collection of awards and trophies. They also introduced her to figure skating, and she had aspirations of competing at the national level, with dreams of the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver, until she suffered a knee ligament injury. Jennifer later attended Mary Ward Catholic Secondary School, where she played the flute in the school band. She was a social and outgoing individual who had a diverse group of friends. Outside of school, Jennifer was an avid swimmer and Jennifer's parents were quite involved in her daily life. They made sure to pick her up from school when classes ended and kept a close eye on her extracurricular activities. They had strict rules. Jennifer wasn't allowed to date boys during high school or attend high school dances. They worried that these activities might divert her attention away from her studies. Parties and boyfriends were off limits until she finished university. While the parents' overprotectiveness likely stemmed from their love and concern for Jennifer's future, she and her friends saw it as oppressive and restrictive. Despite her parents' high expectations, Jennifer's high school grades were only average. She'd excelled in elementary school, but by grade 9, she was getting around 70% in most subjects, except for music, at which she excelled. The pressure to perform was intense, and in response, she resorted to creating a fake report card with straight A's by using old report cards, scissors, glue, and a photocopier. By grade 11, Jennifer met Daniel Wong, a fellow student who was a year older than her. He played the trumpet both in the school band and an outside marching band. Their relationship began as a friendship, but sometime in 2003, they started dating.
He was a part-time drug dealer.
What was the relationship between Daniel and Jennifer?
Very complicated relationship. No psychiatrist, but it looks like Jennifer looked to Mr. Wong as something as a knight in shining armor.
Jennifer's parents continued to believe she was a straight-A student, but the truth was that she earned mostly B's, which for most kids would be respectable, but was unacceptable in her strict household. To maintain the facade, Jennifer continued to doctor her report cards throughout high school. At some point, she received early acceptance to Ryerson University, but things took a turn in her final year when she failed calculus. This prevented her from graduating, and the university revoked its offer. In a desperate attempt to keep her parents from discovering her academic troubles, she lied and told them that she'd be starting at Ryerson in the fall. As a result, she pretended to be a university student, even though she wasn't enrolled. Instead, she spent her time in cafes, working as a piano instructor, and found employment in a restaurant to make money. Occasionally, she'd visit her boyfriend Daniel at York University, where he was pursuing his education. To uphold the facade of academic success, Jennifer resorted to elaborate deceptions. She first informed her parents that she'd won scholarships, later falsely claiming that she had been accepted into the pharmacology program at the University of Toronto. She took it to the extent of buying second-hand textbooks and watching pharmacology-related videos to create notebooks filled with what appeared to be class notes, which she could show her parents as proof of her studies.
So you think she was actually living her lie to the point that it was a fantasy and real for her?
Yes, she bought textbooks. She had highlighters. She had notebooks. She would tell her parents about professors and exams and people in her class. And, her entire family knew a complete false history about her education career.
To make her story more convincing, Jennifer asked her parents for permission to stay near the campus during the week with her friend named Topaz. However, she actually stayed with her boyfriend Daniel and his family at their home in Ajax. Jennifer also deceived Daniel's parents, telling them that her parents were fine with this arrangement. She also brushed off their repeated requests to meet Han.
It was you.
In 2008, when it was supposedly time for Jennifer to graduate from the University of Toronto, she and Daniel took the step of hiring someone they found online to create a counterfeit transcript with straight A grades.
And her parents thought that they had a fully successful young daughter.
When it came to the graduation ceremony, Jennifer explained to her parents that the large class size meant that there weren't enough seats available for all the graduating students.
They both knew it was up
Each graduate was only allowed to
I can't
bring
tell
one
which,
guest,
but they both knew it
and
was
she
up.
didn't want one of her parents to feel left out, so she gave her ticket to a friend. But soon, Jennifer's fabricated identity began to crumble. When she found out studying at the University of Toronto, she informed her parents that she'd also started volunteering at the hospital for sick children in the blood testing lab. However, Han noticed something peculiar. Jennifer lacked a uniform or a hospital ID badge. The next day, Han insisted on dropping her off at the hospital. The moment the car stopped, Jennifer ran inside. This prompted Han to instruct Bit to follow her. Realizing her mother was telling her, Jennifer hid in the waiting area of the ER for several hours until they left. Early the next morning, they contacted Topaz, who revealed the truth. When Jennifer finally returned home, Han confronted her. She admitted that she hadn't been volunteering at the hospital and had never been enrolled in the University of Toronto's pharmacology program and had actually been staying at Daniel's place. Bit cried, and Han was furious. He told Jennifer to leave and never return, but Bit persuaded him to let their daughter stay. They imposed strict measures. Her cell phone and laptop were confiscated for 2 weeks, and afterwards she could only use them in her parents' presence. They prohibited her from seeing Daniel, made her quit all her jobs except for teaching piano, and started monitoring her car's odometer.
Her parents basically put her on lockdown when they figured out what she was up to.
Yes, she's no longer allowed to drive. She's no longer allowed to use her cell phone. She can only leave the house for piano lessons. And she said that her father was actually tracking the mileage on the car.
Despite these restrictions, Jennifer and Daniel managed to communicate secretly during this period. Over time, her parents allowed her some freedom, and she enrolled in a calculus course to earn her final high school credit. Yet, in defiance of her parents' orders, she continued to visit Daniel in between piano lessons. One night, Jennifer tried to sneak out to Daniel's house while making it look like she was asleep by arranging her blankets. However, she unintentionally took her mother's wallet with her. In the morning, Bit entered the room to retrieve the wallet and realized that Jennifer was missing. Both Bit and Han immediately called Jennifer, demanding that she return home. They insisted that she apply to college, as there was still an opportunity for her to pursue a career as a pharmacy lab technician and nurse. Moreover, they demanded that she cut off all contact with Daniel. By this time, even Daniel had grown tired of their secret romance. Jennifer, at 24, was still sneaking around, living in fear of her parents' anger, but unable to leave home. He urged her to take control of her life and decided to end their relationship. This left Jennifer heartbroken. In the spring of 2010, Jennifer reconnected with an old elementary school friend named Andrew Montmeyer. Jennifer later revealed in court that Montmeyer had bragged about robbing people at knife point in a nearby park. During their conversations, Jennifer confided in Montmeyer about her difficult relationship with her father. In response, Montmeyer admitted that he'd once considered killing his own father. This idea intrigued Jennifer, and she began to entertain thoughts of how her life might improve without her father. Montmeyer then introduced Jennifer to his roommate, Ricardo Duncan. Jennifer would later claim that she gave Duncan $1,500 with the intention of having him kill her father in the parking lot of his workplace. They agreed to communicate later by phone to arrange the specifics of the plan. However, Duncan abruptly stopped responding to Jennifer's calls, and by early July, Jennifer realized that she'd been deceived. Duncan would later allege that Jennifer had once given him $200 for a night out, but he returned it. He also claimed that he'd rejected her request to harm her parents. At this point, Daniel and Jennifer, who were back in touch and exchanging daily flirtatious texts, hatched an even darker scheme. Their plan involved hiring someone to eliminate Bit and Han, then inheriting their estate, with Jennifer's share amounting to approximately $500,000. Their goal was to live together without the interference of her parents. To execute this plan, Daniel gave Jennifer a spare iPhone and SIM card and introduced her to an acquaintance named Lenford Crawford, who he referred to as Homeboy. Jennifer inquired about the cost of a contract killing, and Crawford indicated that it typically ran at $20,000. However, he mentioned that for a friend of Daniel's, they could arrange it for $10,000. Jennifer took precautions by using her iPhone exclusively for discussions relating to their criminal plot, while her Samsung phone served for all other purposes. Through a series of text messages, Jennifer agreed to pay Crawford $10,000 to carry out the plan. Crawford prepared for the scheme by scoping out her neighborhood on Halloween 2010. On November 8, 2010, Crawford texted her saying, "After work, okay? Will be game time."
Because Danny Wong wasn't necessarily the most outstanding citizen.
So $10,000, 3 guys will come in, kill the parents, make it look like a home invasion.
Yeah, and that was the initial agreement.
It was Jennifer herself who left the front door open of her family home unlocked on the very night her parents were shot. Her brother, 21-year-old Felix, who was studying engineering at McMaster University, wasn't at home. The individuals responsible for the shooting were Crawford, David Milvagnum, a friend of Crawford's, and a third man named Eric Carty. In the spring of 2011, using cell phone calls and text analysis, the authorities apprehended Daniel, Milvagnum, Carty, and Crawford. All 4 men, along with Jennifer, faced charges of first-degree murder, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. The trial commenced on March 19, 2014. It was expected to last 6 months, but ultimately extended to nearly 10. The proceedings involved over 50 witnesses providing testimony, and more than 200 pieces of evidence were presented. Jennifer found herself on the witness stand for 7 days, desperately trying to convince the jury that although she had indeed arranged a hit on her father in August 2010, her intentions had changed dramatically 3 months later. On December 13, 2014, Jennifer, Daniel, Milvagnum, and Crawford were all found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment with no possibility of parole for 25 years. Initially, Carty was part of the same trial as the other culprits. However, due to Edward Sapiano, Carty's lawyer, falling ill, his case was declared a mistrial around the summer of 2014. In December 2015, Carty received an 18-year sentence after pleading guilty to conspiring to commit murder, with the potential for parole after 9 years. After Jennifer was imprisoned, her father and brother filed for a court order that would not allow her to contact any surviving members of their family, even if she was let out of prison. Despite objections from the defense lawyers, the judge granted the order. Additionally, Jennifer was also prohibited from ever contacting Daniel again. After the final verdict, Hahn expressed that with the loss of his wife, he also felt like he'd lost his daughter. He conveyed that he no longer felt like he had a family. Contrary to what some might say, he stated that he didn't consider himself fortunate to have survived the tragic events. Following Jennifer's conviction, both Hahn and Felix completely severed their communication with her. In the aftermath of the entire ordeal, Jennifer's brother Felix relocated to the East Coast in pursuit of employment with a private technology company. This move was motivated by his desire to escape the stigma associated with the Pan family. As for Jennifer's father, Hahn, he found himself unable to work due to the injuries he sustained. He grappled with anxiety attacks, insomnia, and recurring nightmares. He also abandoned activities he once enjoyed, such as gardening, working on cars, and listening to music. Hahn was reportedly living with relatives for a period. Once Hahn's physical condition improved, he attempted to sell the family home, but unfortunately, he was unable to find a buyer. We hope he eventually found some peace in the years that followed. This is Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian woman. This eerie footage was recorded on January 31st, 2013 in the Cecil Hotel's elevator in Los Angeles. As a surveillance camera recorded her, Elisa entered the elevator, pushing nearly all the buttons and anxiously waiting. Strangely, she exited before the doors even closed, looking like she was afraid of someone lurking. Then she re-entered the elevator, hid in the corner, then exited again. Each time, she seemed to be checking on someone down the hall, gesturing and seemingly talking to an unseen presence. This bizarre behavior continued until Elisa exited one final time, vanishing from view. The doors closed and the elevator descended without her. Tragically, this was the last time Elisa was seen alive. Her lifeless body was discovered 19 days later on February 19, 2013, and to this day, her death remains an unsolved mystery, leaving behind many questions. What happened to Elisa Lam? What hidden mysteries did the Cecil Hotel hold? Los Angeles, often called LA, is a bustling city in sunny California, famous for its entertainment industry and diverse culture. But LA has a unique tie to the Cecil Hotel. Sitting in downtown LA, this hotel isn't famous for the usual reasons. Instead, it's known for its eerie past, filled with mysterious and unsettling events. It's been a magnet for crime and mysteries, drawing the attention of true crime buffs and lovers of spooky tales. And in this intriguing place, on January 31st, 2013, something strange happened to Elisa Lam, adding another layer of mystery to the Cecil Hotel's history. On April 30th, 1991, Yina Lam became a mother, giving birth to a baby girl. This little bundle of joy was named Elisa Lam, also known as Lam Ho Yi in Cantonese. As she grew up in her hometown of Burnaby, Canada, she gained a reputation for her level-headedness and caring nature. Elisa was a true local, always eager to lend a helping hand to her community through volunteering. One of her high school friends, Alex Risty, held Elisa close to her heart. Alex fondly recalled her as one of the kindest people she knew, always looking out for others. Elisa's roots were firmly planted in her family's humble background. Her parents had immigrated from Hong Kong to Canada before she was born, and together they ran a cozy family restaurant named Paul's. This restaurant was a special place, serving up delicious Canadian and Chinese dishes to the locals, creating a sense of home for all who visited. But when she turned 21, Elisa stepped into a new adventure, university life at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. That's when the plot started to thicken. See, back in high school, Elisa was a star student, acing her grades. She was known for her smarts and her friendly, talkative nature. However, after leaving high school and entering college, things took an unexpected turn. Can you imagine feeling anxious, sad, and even scared as your new normal? Well, that's how Elisa felt, and it wasn't easy for her. Keeping up with academic deadlines became a battle, and she couldn't help but compare herself to her fellow students. Plus, she grappled with that big question that often haunts us all. What did she really want from life? A pretty heavy load for someone her age to carry. Back in 2010, Elisa took her first step into the wild world of the internet with her own blog titled Etherfields. Over the following years, she often dropped magazine articles and showed off snazzy fashion pics. But Elisa wasn't just about fashion. What made her blog even more special was her openness. She didn't shy away from talking about her own battles with mental health. In those virtual pages, she poured out her thoughts and ideas on psychology, emotions, and the human spirit. She kept a record of her own musings while also sharing stories that revealed her bright and insightful mind. In her grand finale on Etherfields, Elisa made a dramatic announcement. She was packing her bags and moving her online presence over to Tumblr, where she kicked off a page called Nouvelle Nouveau, which, if you're not fluent in French, means news new. On this new Tumblr turf, Elisa went all out, sharing thousands of images and writings, filled with classical books and culture. But there was a twist. Amid all the cultural curiosities, there were hints of a more somber side. Elisa was grappling with bipolar disorder and depression, which, in simple terms, can be a roller coaster of emotions. To help manage these mood swings, she had an arsenal of medications, like Dexedrine and Wellbutrin. But even with all these challenges, she shared a relatable moment with her audience, the time she crumbled under the weight of academic responsibilities. Some of her posts had a darker tone, shedding light on her ongoing battle with depression. In one entry from November 21st, 2011, she poured her heart out, saying, "Depression sucks. I have no control over my emotions. I'll be angry for minutes and then sad again. I'll be happy for half an hour and then emotional again. But as time ticked on, those darker moments slowly faded from her social media feed. By January 2013, just a month before her mysterious disappearance, Elisa's posts were filled with optimism and a burning desire to conquer her depression. She wrote, "It will never rain roses. When we want to have more roses, we must plant more roses." So, in her quest to break free from the grip of her moods and discover what life truly had in store, Elisa made a bold move. She decided to hit pause on university and embark on a journey of travel. So, on January 7, 2013, she enrolled herself out of university and set her sights on a grand adventure along the west coast of America. She dubbed it her Whirlwind Adventure, or as she affectionately called it, the West Coast Tour. Now, at first, her parents weren't too keen on the idea. They worried about her safety, as parents do. But Elisa promised to chat with them every day on the phone, which somehow convinced them. And with hesitant blessings, they gave her the green light. On January 22, 2013, Elisa kicked off her solo adventure by flying to San Diego. Even when things took a little detour, like her airport escapade where she got lost and missed her next flight, Elisa kept her spirits high. During her time in California, she kept her followers on Tumblr in the loop, sharing the tales of her adventures. One post was all about her simple pleasures, like taking a long hot shower and devouring a $3 dinner. She called it a productive and enjoyable day, living it up just like she would back home. But every now and then, she'd surprise herself with an impulsive and reckless move, like confessing to a guy she'd just met that she liked him. On January 26, 2013, Elisa landed in Los Angeles, and she decided to stay at the Cecil Hotel for 3 nights. This hotel is no stranger to mysteries. It's perched on the infamous Skid Row area at 640 Main Street in downtown LA, and its reputation isn't the cleanest. Since it first opened its doors in 1927, the Cecil has gained quite a reputation for violence, people taking their own lives, and even murders. They've also got another name for it, Stay on Main, but it's received mixed reviews from guests over the years. In fact, one lady even shared a chilling story about how in 2011 she felt like she was being spied on through a bathroom vent while taking a shower at the hotel. Not only that, but there were also 16 unnatural deaths within its walls and strange paranormal happenings that would give anyone the creeps. It even witnessed the most infamous and tragic murder of actress Elizabeth Short, famously known as the Black Dahlia. In 1985, the notorious serial killer Richard Ramirez, known as the Night Stalker, made a pit stop at one of the 600 rooms. He used to casually toss his bloody clothes outside the hotel, but the area was in such chaos that no one seemed to notice or care. Another homicide suspect, Jack Unterweger, also stayed at the hotel in 1991. For some reason, it also became a magnet for people struggling with thoughts of taking their own lives, with a few even leaping from the rooftop in the late 50s and 60s. And if that wasn't enough, there's the cold case of Pigeon Goldie, a former telephone operator whose body was discovered in her room in 1964. That's the Cecil Hotel, where mystery and tragedy seem to check in regularly. Also, Skid Row, where the Cecil Hotel stood, wasn't the safest place in Los Angeles. It had a reputation for being a tough area and was known for having one of the biggest homeless populations in the United States. Roughly 3,000 to 6,000 people were living on the streets here, and that sadly contributed to a higher crime rate in the neighborhood. It was a challenging place to be, to say the least. In reality, Elisa wasn't checking into the main hotel, but she decided to bunk at the Stay on Main, a budget hostel part of the main hotel. The Cecil Hotel had transformed some of its floors into the Stay on Main because they wanted to attract travelers like Elisa while still keeping their long-term residents happy on different floors. Elisa had a deal with her family that she'd message them every day to let them know she was safe and having a blast on her trip. But when January 31st, 2013 rolled around and Elisa didn't reach out, her parents got really anxious. This was also the day when she was supposed to check out of the hotel and head to Santa Cruz. So in a panic, her parents flew all the way to Los Angeles to find their daughter. But when they arrived, they learned that Elisa hadn't checked out yet, and with worry and confusion mounting after realizing Elisa had disappeared, her parents decided to call the Los Angeles police for help. The cops wasted no time in reaching there and began searching the hotel as much as they legally could, starting with Elisa's room. There, they found all her stuff, including her ID, was neatly in place, but there was no sign of Elisa anywhere. The police even brought in the K9 squad to sniff around the whole building, even the rooftop, but even the dogs couldn't catch her scent. Sergeant Rudy Lopez, the officer in charge, explained that they couldn't just barge into every room unless they had a good reason to believe a crime had happened. So where on earth could Elisa be? To crack the case, they grilled the hotel staff, knocked on doors of neighboring rooms, and even chatted up locals to see if anyone had spotted her. There were some interesting tidbits that started coming to light. The first was that Elisa initially had a shared room on the hotel's 5th floor, but her roommates weren't exactly thrilled. They complained about what their hotel's lawyer would later call certain odd behavior. So after just 2 days, Elisa got moved into her own room. According to Amy Price, who's the manager of the Cecil Hotel in Stay on Main when Elisa disappeared, Elisa was quite the note leaver. She'd scribble messages to her roommates, saying things like, "go home" and "go away." And to add to the intrigue, she'd lock the door and make them enter a secret password. It's like she was playing her own mysterious game of hide and seek. Just before January 31st, 2013, when she vanished, Elisa had a rather eventful day. She scored tickets to a live taping of Conan in Burbank, but got kicked out as the security had to escort her off the premises because of some rowdy behavior. Outside the hotel, there was one keen observer, Katie Orphan, the manager of the last bookstore. She remembered Elisa vividly.
Was talking about what book she was getting and whether or not what she was getting would be too heavy for her to carry around as she traveled or take home with her. She was very outgoing, very lively, very friendly.
According to Katie, Elisa was a ball of energy, super friendly and outgoing. She was on a mission to grab some gifts for her family, chatting away about which book to choose, and even wondering if it would be too heavy to lug around during her travels. A week had passed since anyone had seen Elisa. So on February 6, 2013, the LAPD decided that they needed more eyes and ears on the case. So they plastered flyers with her picture all over the neighborhood and online, hoping that someone, somewhere, might have a clue. Meanwhile, the media also caught wind of the mysterious disappearance, and soon everyone was talking about it.
Introduce Lieutenant Walter Teague, T-E-A-G-U-E. He's the officer in charge up at Robbery Homicide Division. His team is handling this missing case. Also with us, they will not be speaking, but this is the family of Elisa Lam, and I'll let Lieutenant Teague take over from here.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. So it's been 5 days, 6 days now. There's been no communication at all, and that's worried us and worried the family. Seeking to get this photo out so we can find Elisa.
Is there any surveillance video showing her coming and going from her?
And we're in the process of investigating that and collecting anything we can in that angle.
Then, on February 13th, 2013, another week later, the LAPD made a bold move. They released a video, the last known sighting of Elisa, captured by a surveillance camera in one of the Cecil Hotel's elevators on January 31st, 2013. In those roughly 2.5 minutes of footage, Elisa, all alone, did some really strange things. Most of you would have already seen this video many times, but let's watch it again clearly. Elisa's behavior in the elevator video is pretty odd. She walks into the elevator wearing a red hoodie and gets really close to the buttons and starts pushing all the middle row buttons like she's playing a game. Then you can see she just stands there waiting for the elevator doors to close. But when they don't, she looks puzzled and even starts peeking out as if she were trying to catch someone in the act. But the thing is that she doesn't seem scared. What you'd expect from a scared person is taking small, cautious steps as if they were frightened, right? But not Elisa. She looks like she's playing around. Some might believe she's scared and hiding near the elevator buttons, worrying that she's being followed or running from someone. But her body language doesn't scream fear. It's more like she's in a playful mood. As the doors stubbornly stay open, Elisa's actions take a puzzling turn. She suddenly steps out into the hallway and starts shimmying in different directions, almost like she's checking for someone. What do you think she's really looking for? Then she comes back into the elevator and goes straight to the control panel, pushing nearly all the buttons, probably hoping they'll magically make the doors close. And here's where things get really odd. She again steps back outside the elevator, and that's when you can notice something strange about her hand gestures and fingers. She starts rubbing her forearms together and waving her hands around as if she's talking to someone, or maybe even herself. We all can see all her movements through the elevator door, which is still open. Then she walks away, leaving the elevator door to finally close, but without her inside. It was the last time that Elisa was seen alive. What could have happened to her after that? This video, with all its strange behavior, became a worldwide sensation. People couldn't stop talking about it, and the experts also analyzed it endlessly. It even made its way to the Chinese video sharing site Youku, where it racked up a whopping 3 million views and 40,000 comments in just the first 10 days, and many folks found it pretty unsettling to watch. Not only that, but when the elevator video came out, it sparked all sorts of theories. Some thought Elisa was trying to make the elevator move to get away from someone chasing her. Others wondered if she'd taken party drugs like ecstasy, but nothing like that showed up in her system. Then, when people found out her bipolar disorder, they thought maybe she was going through some kind of mental breakdown. Some even said the video had been messed with before it went public, with hidden timestamps, slowed down parts, and even a minute of footage missing. This could have been done to hide the identity of someone else who might have been in it, whether they were connected to Elisa's disappearance or not. But the most bizarre theory of all was the paranormal one. People believed that Elisa was playing some kind of elevator game, trying to jump into alternate dimensions. Some even thought she was possessed by ghosts, meeting paranormal beings, or contacted by creatures from other worlds. But in reality, these theories were more about making Elisa's case sound like a supernatural thriller than getting to the bottom of the mystery. After the search for Elisa had continued for 19 long days, something unusual happened at the Cecil Hotel on February 19, 2013. In the early hours of the morning, the hotel's lobby got really busy because guests were complaining about having low water pressure in their showers.
We noticed there was a smell of weed in the room, which was coming through the vent in the bathroom. Also, we noticed that the water pressure was very low. We turned the tap on. Why is the pressure blocked? Why is there no water pressure? And the water was quite discoloured. It was like a dark colour, it had like a brown tint to it.
We were brushing our teeth using that water. We were showering in that water. We did drink the water, but it did have a funny taste to it. We complained and moved to a different room, 2 floors up.
Despite all the complaints, the water pressure didn't improve at all. The hotel had 4 water tanks on its rooftop, and one of these tanks supplied water to the kitchen, coffee shop, and local guest rooms, and they were all facing the same issue. The receptionist promised to get the maintenance worker to take a look. So, a maintenance worker named Santiago Lopez went up to the 3rd floor to check the faucets. But when he checked it, he realized that something wasn't right. So, he decided to climb up to the rooftop to inspect the 1,000-gallon water tank. There was a ladder leading to the tanks, and at the top, there was a small hatch. At first he thought that maybe the tank was empty or clogged, but when he peered inside, he got the shock of his life. There, inside the tank, was Elisa Lam's lifeless body, floating with her face up. The tank had to be drained and then cut open because the little maintenance hatch wasn't big enough to bring Elisa's body out. On February 21st, 2013, the Los Angeles Coroner's Office concluded that Elisa Lam's passing was due to accidental drowning. When they discovered her, she still had her watch and room key with her. Elisa's body, sadly, had started to decompose and swell from being in the water. It looked mostly greenish, with strange patterns on her skin, like marbling. They found her naked and wearing clothing similar to what she wore in the elevator video. She was still floating in the water, covered in a weird sand-like stuff.
A developing story, and this is a strange one. The body of a missing Canadian tourist has been found in this water tank.
The woman inside the tank, 21-year-old Elisa Lam.
That's a very sad and also grisly set of circumstances here, especially the way the body was found.
In the full coroner's report released in June 2013, they confirmed that there was no sign of physical harm or assault. Toxicology tests on Elisa Lam's body found some traces of prescription medication that matched what she had with her belongings. There was also some non-prescription drugs like Sinutab and ibuprofen in her system. A tiny amount of alcohol, about 0.02%, was detected, but no other recreational drugs were present. This news shocked and saddened Elisa's family, as well as everyone who'd been following the case. This left everyone still wondering about the mysterious circumstances surrounding Elisa Lam's tragic end. As a result, various theories continued to swirl around her death, with questions lingering about whether it was genuinely accidental or if there was more to the story. So, how did she end up in that water tank on the rooftop? What was the truth behind that strange surveillance footage showing her unusual actions in the elevator? She seemed happy most of the time, so was it really like Elisa tried to take her own life? Could there have been some paranormal activity involved? Over the years, many theories have emerged about what happened to Elisa Lam and the cause of her death. But let's focus on the straightforward facts. It's essential to remember that Elisa was a simple and cheerful person, and her death is a sensitive and tragic matter. When Elisa was in university, she had to deal with both depression and bipolar disorder. Now, bipolar disorder isn't just about mood swings. It can also bring hallucinations and make you think and do things that don't make sense. Sometimes these decisions can be pretty risky, even harmful. Maybe that's exactly what happened to Elisa on that fateful day. Her bipolar disorder caused a kind of mental storm, making her act in ways she wouldn't if she were feeling like herself. At the moment when Elisa climbed into the water tank, maybe she was experiencing a psychotic break and hallucinating. Her mind could have been playing tricks on her, and maybe she didn't fully grasp the danger of her actions. Interestingly, the toxicology reports confirm that the medication she needed to manage her depression and bipolar disorder were in her system, but they were at very low levels. This suggested that she might not have been taking her medication properly, or she may have even stopped taking them altogether. This could have contributed to the psychotic episode she experienced. It's a poignant reminder of how crucial proper medication and mental health care can be. The video footage surely made you feel uneasy, especially when you see how Elisa kept pressing all those buttons and keeping those elevator doors open. There's still many questions in everyone's mind. How did she end up in the water tank? You see, the doors and stairs to the hotel's roof were locked up tight, only for the staff to access. Trying to force them open would set off alarms. But there was another way, the hotel's fire escape. Her trail of scent vanished near a window connected to it. Later, an internet video also revealed that the hotel's roof was easily accessible through that fire escape. And to make it even stranger, 2 of the tank lids were open. People also wondered if Elisa could have climbed into that tank all by herself. Those tanks were giant 4x8-foot cylinders propped up on concrete blocks, and they had no easy way to get inside. Hotel staff had to use a ladder just to peek at the water inside. Plus, those tanks had heavy lids that could be tough to shut from the inside. But the hotel employee who found the body of Elisa said in an interview that the lid was open when they found her, which rules out the idea that she closed it from the inside. And oddly enough, in her recent Instagram posts, Elisa had a thing for rooftops. She loved sharing pictures from rooftops with the city's skyline. But sadly, that rooftop was the last place she saw before things took a tragic turn. Elisa's tragic death turned the Cecil Hotel into a place of mystery and intrigue. People were curious and wanted to solve the puzzle, and some even visited the hotel, making videos about its halls, rooms, and the famous elevator where Elisa was last seen. But soon, the hotel clamped down on such videos and rumors. This case was also compared to a horror film called Dark Water, mirroring the story of a mother and daughter discovering a girl's lifeless body in a water tank, just like how Elisa was found. But let's not forget who Elisa was. She might have been introverted, but she was deeply thoughtful and perceptive. She kept her feelings close, and there was no apparent reason for her to take her own life. Her blog served as a reminder that she wasn't afraid to share her thoughts and feelings, and that she always aimed to find reasons to smile. In many ways, we can connect with Elisa's emotions, and we hope she's found peace. This next twisted case will take us to Sugar Land, a city located in Fort Bend County, just south of Houston, Texas. With a population of over 100,000 people, Sugar Land has become one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. Yet, lurking in its past is a grim event from 2003, a terrible crime that left a lasting impact on the community. Fate brought Kent and Tricia Whitaker together on a blind date in their 20s, and they soon fell in love. After tying the knot, they settled in Sugar Land, Texas to start a family. Their firstborn, Thomas Bartlett Whitaker, also known as Bart, arrived on December 31st, 1979. The couple's joy knew no bounds, and they raised him with all the love and care in the world. 4 years and 3 months later, on March 19th, 1984, they welcomed their second son, Kevin, into the family. The Whitakers were the envy of their neighborhood. They were the picture-perfect family. Kent was at the helm of a thriving construction company that Tricia's family owned. Tricia, a former elementary school teacher, had given up her career to take care of their two boys, Bart and Kevin. Their home in the Sugar Land subdivision was the talk of the town, and their strong religious beliefs only added to their wholesome image.
They played with each other from the time that Kevin was old enough to do it up until the end. They did stuff together.
Drive down the street to the stop sign for me.
From the moment Bart learned to ride a two-wheeler, he and his father shared a passion for bicycling.
He and I were distant cyclists. We got into the sport when he was 10 or 11 years old. And we tried to figure it out one time and ended up with about 15,000 miles that we've ridden together.
The Whitaker family seemed to have it all until fate intervened. A sudden and unexpected tragedy struck, leaving the family reeling with shock and grief. Life as they knew it would never be the same again. The Whitaker family was always there to support each other's dreams and goals. Bart, who had a passion for criminal justice, began his college journey at Baylor University, but later switched to Sam Houston State University in 2001. On December 10, 2003, Bart, then 23 years old, shared the exciting news that he'd successfully completed his final exams and was about to graduate with honors from Sam Houston State University. Kent and Tricia, his parents, were thrilled by their son's achievement and couldn't wait to celebrate. They, along with their 19-year-old son, Kevin, drove to the nearby town of Stafford for special dinner at the Pappadeaux Seafood Restaurant. The family was in high spirits, laughing and reminiscing about old times. To commemorate the occasion, Kent and Tricia presented Bart with a $4,000 Rolex watch. Little did they know that this happy moment would be the last that they would ever share together. As the family returned home from celebrating, Kevin, who'd driven them home, hurried to unlock the front door while Tricia followed closely behind. Meanwhile, Kent waited patiently for Bart, who'd gone to grab his cell phone from his car, a Chevy Yukon. But as soon as Kevin stepped inside, a deafening gunshot rang out. A bullet hit him square in the chest and sent him crashing to the floor. Tricia, still in shock from the sudden violence, was also shot in the chest as she stepped to the doorway. Kent, who'd been standing outside, was hit next. A bullet pierced his chest, lodging itself in his shoulder. Amidst the chaos, Bart bravely rushed in to confront the masked gunman, but was shot in his upper left arm during the struggle. Though injured, he managed to chase the attacker out the back door. He seemed determined to catch the criminal who just shattered their peaceful existence. However, the attacker was able to flee.
Kevin opens the door. There's this huge, loud noise. Bang!
Kevin was shot center mass right in his sternum.
Tricia says, "Oh no." And I hear another noise. Bang!
Tricia had made it into the house behind Kevin and was shot and then fell in the doorway.
I look inside, and there's a figure with a ski mask on.
Bart then chased the guy into the house, and as he approached that figure, he was shot.
I think, oh my God, he shot all four of us.
Cliff Stanley was the Whitakers' neighbor, and when he heard the chaos, he rushed down to their home. When he arrived, he found a gruesome scene. Kevin lay lifeless on the floor. Trisha's condition was critical, and Kent was bleeding profusely. Cliff acted fast. He tore off his shirt and used it to staunch the bleeding from Kent's wound. After doing this, he dialed 911, relaying the details of the situation to the operator. Meanwhile, Bart managed to call 911 on his own, his voice strained as he described the events that had just unfolded. Kevin succumbed to his injuries before any help could arrive. Trisha was rushed to the hospital by a helicopter, but tragically, she too passed away en route. Kent and Bart, both wounded but alive, were transported to the hospital for treatment. As they fought for their lives, Sugar Land police arrived at the crime scene to gather evidence.
A model American family ambushed as they arrive home from a happy dinner out. A gunman shoots all four, killing the mother and one son and wounding the other son and father.
One subject right now is shot in the arm. Apparently the whole family's been shot.
One of the officers who responded to the scene was Detective Marshall Slott. He was the on-call detective that night and thus was responsible for leading the investigation. The detective was struck by the bizarre details of the crime. He was the one who discovered the murder weapon, a 9mm Glock handgun that was registered to none other than Kevin. Whomever the killer was had gone to great lengths to retrieve the weapon, entering a crawl space in Kevin's bedroom on the second floor and prying open a small metal safe where the gun was. The safe had been dented and twisted, with blue paint left behind from the culprit's tool. Detective Marshall also spotted a black leather glove lying on the curb next to Bart's car, which he ordered to be collected for processing. But perhaps the most perplexing detail was the untouched dresser drawers in the first-floor master bedroom. Jewelry and expensive audio and video equipment were left out in plain sight, yet none of it was taken. Even stranger, the only fingerprints found in the home belonged to the Whitaker family. Detective Marshall couldn't help but feel that something wasn't adding up, and he was determined to get to the bottom of it. Deputy Keith Pickett of the Fort Bend County Sheriff's Department soon arrived on the scene with his well-trained bloodhounds. As soon as Pickett let the dogs loose, they followed a trail from the rear of the Whitaker residence where the perpetrator had fled. Despite their extensive training, the dogs didn't pick up much of a scent, and the trail quickly went cold. The team then shifted their focus to collecting scent swabs from various items found in the Whitaker home, including the black glove, the murder weapon, dresser drawers, pillows, and the damaged gun safe in Kevin's room. The stakes were high, and the investigators knew that the scent evidence would be a critical factor in solving the crime. As Kent lay recovering in the hospital, the battle between rage and faith raged on inside him. The bullet that had struck him had missed his heart by a mere 6 inches, and he was lucky to be alive. But the news of Trisha and Kevin's death had shattered him completely. Revenge was a tempting path, but Kent knew it would only lead to more darkness. Instead, he resolved to forgive the shooter, no matter who it was. In the days that followed, Kent and Bart clung to each other for emotional support. Despite their pain, they refused to let the shooter's act of violence destroy their faith in humanity. The road ahead was long and difficult, but in each other's company, they felt ready to face whatever came their way. As detectives raced against the clock to catch the killer, their investigation took a sharp turn. They couldn't find any evidence to support their theory of an interrupted burglary, as nothing was stolen from the Whitaker's house. Frustrated and with no leads, they began to dig into the Whitaker's past to identify potential enemies. But their search proved fruitless. It was a seemingly random phone call from a newspaper reporter on December 12, 2003 that led to a shocking discovery. Sugar Land detective Billy Baugh was told by the reporter that Bart was not even enrolled in Sam Houston State University, despite claiming to be a student there. Grand jury subpoenas were issued to obtain Bart's school records, which revealed that he'd actually dropped out during his freshman year. It was a stunning revelation that left detectives wondering what else had Bart lied about. On December 15, 2003, Adam Hipp, a Dallas bank teller, walked into the Sugar Land Police Department requesting to speak to Detective Marshall. He'd attended high school with Bart and had some mind-blowing information to share. Hipp revealed that in the spring of 2001, Bart had recruited him to kill his family. And all this was that so Bart could inherit his parents' construction business, which was estimated to be worth $1.5 million. To back his claim, Hipp drew a diagram of the Whitaker house and shared with Detective Marshall how Bart planned to lure the family out for dinner, leaving a door unlocked for him to enter and commit the murders. According to Hipp, the murder weapon would be supplied by Bart's former college roommate, who would bring it down from Waco, Texas, to give to Hipp. The detectives were shocked and started to suspect Hipp as the shooter. However, after a thorough investigation, Hipp was able to prove that he was not the killer. He'd been at work until late at night on the day of the murder, and this eliminated him as a suspect. The investigation had taken yet another unexpected turn, leaving everyone wondering if Bart could have indeed been responsible for the crime. A man named Justin Peters was soon identified as the former roommate mentioned in Hipp's revelation. The police wasted no time in tracking him down. Justin was located in San Antonio and quickly taken into custody for questioning. Justin confirmed the details of the plan that Hipp had revealed, which had been originally set for April 5, 2001. He also disclosed to the detectives that Bart had initially approached him and another Baylor student, Will Anthony, to carry out the murder in December 2000. However, both attempts failed. With all this information, detectives' focus soon shifted to Bart. At the time, Bart owned a lavish lakeside townhouse which had been given to him by his parents. The house was located in Willis, 70 miles away from Sugar Land and in the Houston area. But it wasn't just Bart living in the house. He was sharing it with Chris Bashir, a 21-year-old man. Another man named Stephen Champagne, who lived just a few doors down from them, also came under police suspicion as he'd been given a bartending job at a restaurant where Bart worked. However, when detectives interviewed both Chris and Stephen, they denied any involvement in the murders. To rule them out, they submitted DNA samples and scents for testing. The results were shocking. Deputy Pickett's bloodhounds picked up Chris's scent from a lineup, indicating that he'd come into contact with the murder weapon, glove, gun safe, and even the drawers in the master bedroom. It seemed like the investigators had finally caught a break, but there was still a long way to go in bringing justice to the Whitaker family. As detectives were closing in on Bart as the prime suspect in his family murders, Hipp, the Dallas bank teller, decided to cooperate with investigators in exchange for immunity. He agreed to secretly record his conversations with Bart and provide authorities with incriminating evidence. In one of these recordings, Bart offered to pay Hipp a sum of $20,000 to lie to the police about his involvement in the murder plot. And just to seal the deal, Bart went ahead and sent $240 to a Dallas post office box in April 2004. The evidence was damning, as Bart's fingerprints were found all over the mailer. Kent was devastated when he learned from the police that his own son, Bart, might have played a role in the murder of Tricia and Kevin. He was further broken when he also got to know that Bart had been lying about his academic status for years. Despite the police warning him that Bart might pose a threat to him, Kent couldn't accept the accusation without concrete evidence. At some point, Kent tried to confront Bart about his involvement in the murder, but Bart denied it. However, when Bart was also confronted with the truth about his education, he revealed that he had informed his deceased mother about his academic struggles. Kent was struggling to come to terms with this revelation when Bart suddenly disappeared without a trace on June 28, 2004. He told his father that he was leaving to visit a friend and would be back the next day. However, his Chevy Yukon was found abandoned with the engine still running in an apartment complex in southwest Houston. Bart seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving everyone to grapple with the possibility that he'd fled to avoid prosecution for the crime. The case seemed to go cold after this. The detectives were left with nothing but a few loose ends that they desperately needed to tie up. They needed something concrete, something to help them finally put the pieces together. In June 2005, they came up with a bold plan, which was wiretapping the phones of Stephen and Chris, the only two people left who might have some information on Bart's whereabouts. It was a risky move, but the detectives were running out of options. They knew that they needed to catch a break, and they needed it soon. So they worked tirelessly to prepare the application for the wiretaps, and by the beginning of August 2005, they had everything in place. They listened in on countless phone calls, but none of them provided any useful information. It was frustrating, but they refused to give up. They knew that they were so close to the truth, they just needed one small piece of the puzzle. And then, on August 28, 2005, everything changed. Stephen, who they suspected had been in on the conspiracy all along, finally broke down and agreed to meet with Detective Marshall at a coffee shop. He'd had enough of living with the guilt and fear, and he was ready to tell the truth. And what he had to say was shocking. He revealed that he aided Chris in leaving the Whitaker home on the night of December 10, 2003. He'd been the driver of a getaway car, and Chris had been the shooter. Although he didn't know about the murders beforehand, he admitted to helping dispose of some of the evidence in Lake Conroy after the shootings. The next day, August 29, 2005, Stephen gave a videotaped confession, this time implicating himself, Chris, and Bart in the murders of Trish and Kevin and the attempted murder of Kent. He even offered to take detectives to the spot on the bridge over Lake Conroy where he and Chris had dumped the bag of items used in the crime. Divers were able to locate the bag, which contained a glove that matched the one found at the crime scene, a chisel with paint matching that on Kevin Whitaker's gun safe, and a water bottle which was later tested and was discovered to contain Chris's DNA. With Stephen's confession and the recovered evidence, the detectives swung into action. They arrested Chris and sought an arrest warrant for Bart, who remained at large. On September 14, 2005, a mysterious caller who identified himself only as Mike Jones gave Detective Marshall a lead on Bart's whereabouts. Mike claimed Bart had paid him $3,000 to drive him to Mexico. After some investigation, the caller would later be identified as a man named Rogelio Rios. He was a former co-worker of Bart's. Detectives worked tirelessly to track down Bart and eventually discovered that he'd assumed a new identity. He was now known as Rudy Rios and had settled in the small town of Cerralbo, Mexico. To blend in with the locals, Bart even landed a job at the furniture store and developed a romantic relationship with a woman. He even went as far as concocting a story of serving in Afghanistan to explain his gunshot wound. But the detectives were not to be outdone. They finally arrested Bart as he appeared for a job interview at a restaurant in Monterey on September 22, 2005. As the year drew to a close in 2005, the authorities made a chilling announcement. The state would be seeking the death penalty for Bart, but not for his accomplices, Chris or Stephen. The authorities believed that they wouldn't have been involved in such a heinous crime if it weren't for Bart. In an attempt to avoid the death penalty, Bart was offered a plea bargain, but he refused to admit his guilt. As the case progressed and the trial loomed in December 2006, First Assistant District Attorney Fred Felkman received an unexpected Christmas card from Bart. It seemed harmless enough, but Felkman knew it was not. The card contained a subtle message that hinted at the possibility of harm to Felkman's family. The sinister nature of the card showed just how manipulative and dangerous Bart truly was. March of 2007 marked the beginning of one of the most high-profile trials in the state's history. Bart, the accused, stood in front of Judge Clifford Vasek, refusing to plead guilty. But the trial would not be without drama. Kent, the first witness, relived the horrific night his wife and youngest son were murdered. Following this, the court went silent as a recording of a phone conversation between Kent and Bart was played. In the call, Bart's true colors were on full display as he ranted about his attorney and demanded the best legal representation that money could buy. On the third day of the trial, the spotlight shifted to Stephen, who revealed chilling details of his involvement in the murder plot. Stephen testified that Bart was a master manipulator, often lying about his family and jokingly expressing his desire to have them executed. Stephen claimed that he tried to confront Bart about his twisted fantasies, but despite this, the plan for the murder was set in motion. Stephen recounted the day of the murders, how Bart and Chris left in Bart's vehicle and how he parked his own vehicle in the back of the parking lot at Papado Restaurant, waiting for the Whitakers to leave. He followed them home and parked in front of the house directly behind their home, as instructed by Bart. Chris appeared shortly after and got into the back seat of Stephen's car. As they drove away from the neighborhood, he revealed that Chris coldly recounted the details of the murder. Stephen's testimony was enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. But it was his conversation with Bart in a Woodlands restaurant that revealed the depth of Bart's evil intentions. In February 2004, approximately 2 months after the shooting, Bart confided in Stephen that the job wasn't finished, and he discussed the possibility of killing his father, Kent. The trial had reached its crucial point, and the courtroom was filled with tension as the final witnesses took the stand. Kent and Tricia Whitaker's brother, Bo Bartlett, was there, determined to convince the jury to spare Bart's life. They argued that perhaps Bart's upbringing had put too much pressure on him, and that he'd been given too much too soon. Then Bart himself took the stand, determined to avoid the death penalty. He tried to disprove the assertion that his motive for the murder was money, and instead claimed that he developed hatred towards his family for never being able to meet their high expectations. Bart even claimed to have found God while in Mexico, and to have become a new person. The courtroom was silent as the jury delivered their verdict after only an hour and a half of deliberation on March 8, 2007. Bart was found guilty of capital murder and was sentenced to death. He accepted the decision without showing any emotion. Meanwhile, Kent Whitaker, the lone survivor of the family, flinched upon hearing the verdict but accepted it, acknowledging that the Lord's will had been done. Bart's accomplice, Chris, received a life sentence with a possibility of parole after 30 years. Currently, he's locked up at the Eastham Unit in Lovelady, Texas, and is expected to be eligible for parole in 2035 when he'll be 53 years old. As for the getaway driver, Stephen, he was given a 15-year sentence. In 2008, years after the devastating loss of his son and wife, Kent wrote a book called Murder by Family. In it, he recounted the murders of his loved ones and how he chose to forgive both his son Bart and Chris. The book became a bestseller and allowed Kent to spread his message of the power of forgiveness. He later met a woman named Tanya, and the two found love and companionship, traveling the country to speak on the topic. Meanwhile, Bart refused to accept his fate. He appealed his death sentence on multiple grounds, but his efforts were in vain. On November 1st, 2017, a warrant was signed for Bart's execution, and the date was set for February 22nd, 2018 at 6 p.m.
In a race against time, 38-year-old Thomas Bart Whitaker's final days are ticking down on death row. Now he awaits a destiny that seems all but assured: execution by lethal injection. His father Kent spends these final days in a desperate hunt for mercy, on this day savoring what may be his last visit with his son in prison.
As we were leaving, we put our hands up to the glass, and he puts his hand up on the other side, and we smile and say, "We love you," and then we left.
As the clock ticked towards his son's execution, Kent refused to give up hope. He tirelessly petitioned the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, begging them to intervene and spare his son's life. Kent believed that his son's sentence was unjust because neither he nor anyone in Tricia's family had pushed for his execution.
I am the single greatest victim in this crime, and nobody has to try to convince me of how awful this crime was. The death penalty is the wrong penalty in this case.
On the evening of February 22nd, 2018, about 45 minutes before Bart's scheduled execution, an unexpected twist changed the course of his life forever. Governor Greg Abbott granted Bart's sentence to be changed to life imprisonment. It was an unprecedented move by the governor, who had never before commuted a death sentence. In exchange for this, Bart agreed to relinquish any chance of parole. His statement upon hearing the news was not one of relief for himself, but of gratitude for his father. He'd said the following: "I'm thankful for this decision, not for me, but for my dad. Whatever punishment I might have received or will receive will be just. I deserve any punishment for my crimes, but my dad did nothing wrong. The system worked for him today, and I will do my best to uphold my end of the bargain. Bart now resides in the William G. McConnell unit in Beesville, Texas. He's locked up in solitary confinement